Torah guardian, speaking the absolute truth. Torah nation.
Shalom, shalom, Yasharal and Yahuda, grafted in Gentiles into the body of the Mashiach. You only have I known. You're the main ones I'm watching on my throne. Oh, hallelujah. Yeah, that's my home. Man of Yah, woman of Yah, in the name of Yahusha, Hamashiach, understand this. It costs to be Yahuwah's own. Yahuwah, in the name of Yahusha, Mashiach. In the name of Yahusha, Mashiach, I pray that you would, by your Ruach HaKodesh, that you have given me, that flows from my belly, rivers. I pray that you would take this and take the reins of my lips and the reins of my tongue and the rein. Yahuwah, that your word will come forth from me. Yahuwah, that it would speak and bring life and peace to those who you have chosen. Yahuwah, I pray in the name of Yahusha Mashiach that we will be established as your people in your witness. Yahuwah, in the name of Yahusha Mashiach, I pray. In the name of Yahusha Mashiach, I pray that the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable to my son. Yahuwah, my strength and my redeemer. We're listening to none other than Hezekiah. Song is entitled Amos 3, 1 through 2. Listen. Yahuwah has a people.
I sent your enemy. Get out my lane and sent you was interfering. I'm the reason they put you in chains. I'm the reason they switched up your name.
Yahuwah has a people.
I'm the reason why you in the hood. I'm the reason of all your pain. I'm sending flows fast, steady. Think I don't love you. Y'all my babies. Gave my son. Must be crazy. Come on,
Yahuwah has a people.
They got that military when I face it. It was not moving. It was not crazy. Remember Egypt. I did all that for my people.
How do we become his people? How did we become his people? How does anyone become Yahuwah's people? He chose Yaakov, and Yaakov was identified as his. We know that in Jubilees, the 2nd chapter, beginning at the 20th verse, 19th verse, 20th verse, right? We know that Yaakov is his people. We know that he is bringing deliverance to his people. But listen, right? What brought us to the place where Yahuwah has decided to select Yaakov? See, it was more than just because it wasn't because we were large in number. It wasn't because there was anything about us outside of. Because we were strongest, we weren't the tallest. Right, we weren't the... What was it that made him choose Yaakov? What made him identify Yaakov as his own? What did Yaakov do to make Yahuwah believe that they were worthy to be chosen as his own people. Not Yafet, not Ham and their descendants, not Shem and all of their descendants, but Yaakov. Right? What was about Yaakov? Right? Yahuwah says in Amos 3:1, and hear this word that Yahuwah have spoken against you, O children of Yasharal, against the whole family, which I brought up out from the land of Mitzrayim, saying, right? You only have I known. What made the nation of Yasharal, the descendants of the 12 tribes, cause Yahuwah to say, you only have I known out of all the families of the Eretz. Why? Right? Because the remainder of that verse says, therefore will I punish you for all your iniquities. Because the answer to why we are the people that he only have known of all the families rests in that latter part of that verse when it says, therefore I will punish you for your iniquities. Right? Well, why our iniquities and not the other nations? They were just as wicked and as diabolical as us. See, Yahuwah gave our forefathers a Torah. Yahuwah gave our forefather a method of atonement. Yahuwah cut a covenant with our people. See, Yahuwah had already identified Avraham as that guy. Avraham is that guy. Avraham is that guy. Yahuwah had already established Avraham as that guy. Avraham, the father of the nation of Yasharal, but he's the father of many nations because he's the father of the Ishmaelites. Right? Oh yeah, he's the father of the Ishmaelites. He is the father of Keturah's sons and their greatness. But see, only Yasharal has he known. He's the God of Avraham is the father, right, of Esau. Through Ishmael. I mean, yeah, through Isaac. Right? What makes Yaakov so special? So much so that Yahuwah would choose them. See, and you know, if you understand anything about Torah, you understand anything about the laws, you understand anything about the commandments, if you understand anything about the prophets, if you understand anything about Yahusha Mashiach, you'll understand, right? That what truly recommends you as the people of Yahuwah has nothing to do with your genetic makeup. We were people that were under an atonement. See, this thing is greater than DNA. It was the DNA of Yitzhak, the DNA of Jacob, that held us under an atonement. They kept us under commandments and obedient to statutes that Yahuwah had established. It is the fact that we honored Yahuwah's Shabbats. We honored his feast days. See, that's what caused us to be the people that he has only known. I mean, we had to come up under atonement. We had to recognize that, in order to please Yahuwah, we had to offer up. We had to offer up an atonement. In order to be Yahuwah's, we had to offer up an atonement. See, because, without the shedding of blood, there's no forgiveness of sins. See, and because of Adam's sin passed on to everybody. We all in this earth have the same consciousness. But what separates us? What makes us a cut above the rest? We've kept Yahuwah's law, statutes, and commandments. This is not a political movement. This is not a push for civil rights. This is not to make war. This is to bring us under the covering of you. This is to establish us as his people. See, you wasn't really ever a respecter of persons. You was never really a respecter of persons in regards to anyone that wanted to come under his atonement. But they had to accept the national idea and the natural laws that govern the nation. They had to be willing to comply to the Shabbat. They had to be circumcised in the flesh. They had to be identified as the people of Yahuwah. See, and if you were willing to do this, then you were treated as if you were homeborn. Treated as if you were homeborn. There was no distinction between you and the homeborn. It's all about you who were just establishing a people. See, our DNA is important because we can trace where we've been. We can align it with who we are. But you still ain't his until you come up under atonement. You are people who can trace your ancestral identity back to a people who had rebelled against Yahuwah and went into captivity. And because of your continual, perpetual disobedience, because you were a stiff-necked people, your forefathers thought it was necessary to crucify Hamashiach and let go of Robert. Willingly suggested that the blood of this Yahusha Mashiach, let it be on our children and our children's children's descendants. See, the only thing that keeps you, only thing that gives you sonship. Because, you know, it's interesting how, you know, we identify with a culture. Right? And again, the Hebraic culture is a culture, but a culture without an atonement, right? A culture without an atonement, right? Right? A culture without an atonement is a bunch of customs and practices. See, with an atonement, you align yourself with a supernatural deity. You become the object of this supernatural YOVHELIYM's protection. He keeps sickness and disease at bay. Your enemies that try to sneak up on you one way here, cause them to be smitten before your face, and then they gonna flee 7 different ways. Because you are under an atonement. You keep laws, statutes, and commandments that govern the conduct of those that are under this nation, this kingdom. It's not your question to know who you are so that you can assimilate into another country and nation, feeling as if you have some inalienable rights. This is the land of your captivity. You gotta come up under this atonement. That's the difference. It's not just culture, because you know, there's things that can be traced back to our culture that is pagan because of the influence of these elves that were attached to our people in their disobedience. I mean, there's things that we have as instructional rules and regulations of conduct and dress and how we move amongst our brethren, right? Those things. But there's other things that these other nations and these elves have allowed. We have allowed them to attach themselves to us. It's like the stench of Babylon. And that is rubbed off onto the people of Yahuwah. We don't understand what it's like to be in our own land, right? Because we've been so long in exile. We've been so long under the hand of the enemy. In these United States of America, we still under the hands of our enemies. We still got to bow the knee. Because you know, he bowed the knee. And you gotta understand now, all of this factors into the plan of Yahuwah, right? Oh, it's in the plan, right? We're in the plan. We're a hate group. I ain't never hated nobody. I hate sin. I hate idolatry. I hate wickedness. I hate perversion. You only have he known. Why? Because Abraham cut a covenant. Abraham kept atonement. Abraham honored the Shabbat. Abraham kept Yahuwah's law, statutes, and commandments. When Yahuwah told Abraham to go, he get up and went. When Yahuwah told Abraham to circumcise his children, he circumcised everybody under him. Everybody that was a hired servant. Everybody. You know, the interesting thing is, right? Abraham was the father of many nations, right? It's an interesting thing, right? Now you think about this, not just a thought, right? Just a thought, right? Yahuwah gave a covenant to Abraham. The covenant was circumcision. And Abraham's seed, right? And everybody in Abraham's house. Now, everybody in Abraham's house, right? Wasn't Hebraic. They weren't all one nation. Abraham had Egyptians. I'm sure he had other nations that worked for him. Other people. But when they stayed with Abraham, they sojourned with Abraham. They had to be circumcised. Had to be circumcised. All that Abraham inherited went to Yitzhak. Yitzhak produced two sons, Jacob and Esau. Right? Now, Jacob went to Laban, his mother's brother, for a wife. Esau, he went to the heathens. It was Canaanites. There was people under Abraham, under Yitzhak, under Yaakov, made up a mixed multitude, right? Now, it was obvious that we spent most of our time in a land where there were people like us, right? Yaakov had 12 sons and one daughter. Where'd they get their wives from? You know what your father is, but where did they get their wives from? Where did we go when we needed? We went to Egypt. Right? So being this people had nothing to do with the involvement with certain of the other nations, because there would be no sons produced. Where they was going to get their wives? Atonement. Keeping atonement. Keeping Shabbat. Right? Keeping the feast days. Right? Keeping Yahuwah's law, statutes, and commandments. And having blood. right? Innocent bloodshed. An ox, a sheep, a goat. It's what made you his people. Listen, they was, after Joseph died, after the patriarchs died, I mean the Judah's son, Ephraim, I mean the actual leaders of the tribes, they passed. 200 years, 250 years, right? Now they had wives, right? They had children, right? But where did they get all of their wives and their children's wives? Because he says, you know, Jacob had 3 wives, right? It was 3. 3 wives, right? He brought forth the 12 tribes. Only one of them was one girl. They got married. See, now, you know, when you look at Jubilees, you'll see where they married and who they married. Right? But after them, you know, they were in Mitzrayim. I say that to say this. You must understand that what makes you Yahuwah's people is being under his atonement. It's not because you're a specific race. I mean, of course, everybody in the area that Yahuwah chose us from, right, was of our color. Egyptians were of darker races. I mean, they say that in the Vanderbilt's dictionary, right? Right? The darker races. We were in them places where there was a lot of sun. Right? We melanated places. Right? And what we experienced in relationship was with melanated people. Right? See, other races, right, which were descendants of Japhet, Shem, and Ham. They had covenants with other elves. And their covenant with their other elves, right, gave no place for Yahuwah in his atonement. Because they were making atonement to other elves. See, because what establishes us as a people of his is because we come up under his atonement and keep his law, statutes, and commandments. See, you got to have an atonement before you can even enter into a covenant of laws. You got to understand that you're guilty because Adam was guilty. You're always guilty. You're always guilty. Because under Adam, everybody was guilty. Under Adam, everybody was guilty. Shem was guilty, Japhet was guilty, Ham was guilty. But Yahuwah just identified this Avraham under the lineage of Shem, right? That he could make a covenant with. Because he found that Avraham hated the same things he hated. Avraham was willing to learn Torah and keep Torah. He was willing to. He was able and willing to learn Shabbat and keep Shabbat. The days of Yahuwah. He was willing to do what Japhet, Ham, and Shem didn't do. Keep atonement. That's what made them the people. That's what made them the people. Listen. Ain't nothing new under the sun. Ain't nothing new under the sun. You better understand the love of Yahusha Mashiach. And you better understand this ain't a white thing. This ain't a black thing and a brown thing. This is who is under the atonement thing. This is who under the atonement thing. Listen, it ain't a 12 chart thing. Because in your genetic bloodline, he wanted us to marry amongst each other, right? You know why? Because we were all devoted to the Torah. We were all devoted to the Torah, right? Right? He wanted us to marry within our tribes because he understood that the tribes have to be strong within themselves, right? Right? He wanted the tribes to be devoted to the tribes, right? Because they were all going to settle in one different place. They're going to settle in the territory that's going to be wide open. But you're going to be able to marry within your tribe because you know what? All of y'all are under the atonement. It's because you're under the atonement. Has nothing to do with color. You know, color was a construct. What did Yahuwah say? I don't want your sons marrying their daughters, and I don't want your daughters marrying their sons. Why? Because they were a different color? Because their hair was straight and yours was curly? No. Because they atoned, made sacrifices to another L, and they would pull you into loving and spending and devoting yourself to their L. That's why it was evil to you. You're going to give your daughter over to somebody who serves other else, and you serve the living on Yahuwah? No, you need to be stoned. It had nothing to do with color. It had nothing to do with race. It has nothing to do with race. It has never had anything to do with race. E1B1A, that helps identifies us, puts us in a group where we understand genetically we're connected, right? Right? Genetically we're connected. And the other nations have the same thing. They have things that are markers that causes them to be genetically connected, right? Genetically connected, right? But at the end of the day, Yahuwah says, I'm going to bring in the other nations. He just was going to bring in a bunch of people that was going to be adulterers. He wasn't going to bring in people who were going to be worshiping Esther and Diana and Baal. He was going to bring people who's going to come and serve him. Turn away from their elves and serve Yahuwah. See, because you know what? It's an atonement thing. It's an atonement thing. And as soon as you understand that, it's about who is going to be under Yahuwah's atonement. Who is going to be washed. Who is going to repent of their sins and receive Yahusha's blood to be their atonement. And then who is going to receive the gift of the Ruach HaKodesh, which is Yahuwah and Yahusha on the inside of you. Who's going to do that? Right? Those who do. Beloved, now we the sons of YOVHELIYM, who now we his people. He's coming to gather his people. His people are those who are under the atonement. Let's go in. Who is his people? Why are they his people? There's no new pages. It's just the same script. The same script that was given to Moshe and to the nation. It's the same script that he's given through Yahusha HaMashiach. There's nothing changed. Right? You still have to have an atonement. You still have to wash before you come to Yahuwah. You got to be baptized. He's got to sprinkle you with clean water. There's nothing new under the sun. You got to understand that this is Yahuwah's way. Yahuwah's way, right? You know, people like, you got bruises like, man, why you want to bring in other nations? Why you always trying to bring in other nations? You know, why we always forgiving everybody? Because we recognize atonement. See, because we know we failed Yahuwah miserably over and over and over again. And yet Yahuwah still made provisions for us. See, that's why Yahuwah says, listen, vengeance is mine. And I'm going to repay. But listen, I ain't going to tell you that there may come a time when in Yehuda, we're going to roar like lions. Yeah, we going to do the business. Right? We're going to do whatever Yahuwah calls us to do. Yahusha calls us to do. We're going to do the business. Right? But we ain't going to do the business out of malice. Right? We're going to do the business as righteousness. See, because, even when we went in to conquer nations, Yahuwah did it all for us. We just had to go in and mop up. You had armies turning themselves on one another. Listen. You had to do nothing but mop up. Sometimes we had to go in and kill everybody. Right? But that was Yahuwah. Yahuwah told us that. That was his plan. His plan was to march around Jericho. We probably would have tried to storm it and got dusted. March around Jericho, blowing trumpet, rolling shofar. See, there may come a time. But we move in love. Excuse me. We move in love. We move in love. I was watching this YouTube. Was it YouTube? On TikTok. Or YouTube. I can't remember. One or the other. I told you I'm constantly looking for stuff that I can make on TikTok. You know how I could grow stuff. You could grow this, bam. You could grow this from I'm always looking at stuff like that. And this cop pulled his brother over him. This cop arrested his brother, right? He had him in handcuffs. And all of a sudden he started choking on some gum. Right? Choking on some gum. Right. And this brother sees him in distress. So this is a European officer. Because you know most of them all. That's another story. That all goes back to the slave mentality and all of the law enforcement. It's designed. Right. So anyway, this European cop is on his back, laying down, struggling to breathe. And the brother walk over there with the handcuffs behind his back. Walk over to him, says, all right. And the guy's like, couldn't breathe. He's like, so the man takes the handcuffs, works him out from between his legs, right, and brings him to the front of him. He asked the officer, where's the key? Officer gave him the key. He took the key, unlocked himself, put the cuffs on the ground, picked the officer up, and did the Heimlich maneuver on him. Israel, man. Israel, man. Israel. And did the Heimlich on him. Boom. 1, 2. I think he did it on him 3 to 4 times, right? And you know they got the cam right there from the car, viewing the whole thing. And the 4th time he hit it, and the gum, he had gum, big water gum, blew out and landed on the hood of the car. And the man is trying to catch his breath. The brother walks back over to the handcuffs, gets the handcuffs, and gets ready, commences to put them back on. You can't make this stuff up. You only have I know. Listen, man, there's some stuff that's in our DNA that just makes us who we are. Right? So the officer says, no. You can go. He's like, but no. He said, no. You can go. You just saved my life. You can go. Right? You gotta understand this, bro. We are people. We are called by his name. But in order to be his people, you got to get him under his atonement. Because outside of his atonement, right, there's slavery, there's bondage, there's captivity, right? There's Babylon, there's Mitzrayim. You got to come from under it. You got to get in this atonement. So, he says here in Amos, the 2nd chapter, you only have I known of all the families of the Arets. He says, therefore will I punish you for all your iniquities. Because see, you're the only family that I've brought under the atonement. You're the only family that I've given my law, statutes, and commandments to. See, these other nations atone to Els. These other nations offer sacrifices to Els. These other nations shed innocent blood and drink blood. Right? Right? You don't know that. No. And in actuality, that's why he went about to destroy us. Right? Because we began to participate in the same stuff that these other nations were in. Doing the same thing these other nations were doing. But we're the only ones he's known. Right? Well, you understand that He knows us, right? Because we kept atonement. He can't know us, or he won't accept us, right? Unless we walk together. He says, how? He said, can two walk together except they be agreed? How can we be together if we're not under the same covenant? How can we agree if you don't keep my law, statutes, and commandments? Right? He said, will a lion roar in the forest when he haveth no prey? Right? Will a young lion cry out of his den if he has taken nothing? Right? He says, can a bird fall in a snare upon the arets where no gin is for him? Right? He says, shall one take up a snare from the earth and have taken nothing at all? How can two walk together except they agree? None of these things can work together unless they agree. He says, shall a trumpet be blown in the city and the people not be afraid? Right? Because, when the trumpet went off in Israel, it was either for the calling of the gathering of the people for a Shabbat or for a feast, or it was the trump to sound the warning. He said, shall not be afraid. Shall there be an evil in a city and Yahuwah have not done it? Shall anything happen in this city and Yahuwah not be made aware of it? Oh, that took him by surprise. No, he actually done it. Right? Right? He says, surely Yahuwah will do nothing, his secrets unto his servants the prophets. So Yahuwah reveals his self to the prophets, right? Or to those that he has chosen. Yahuwah is revealed to me to reveal to you that you must be born again of the water and the Ruach HaKodesh. I was talking to a Niqodiymon today, and we were actually going over I was looking at some of the things that she had posted to me. And you better have a Ruach HaKodesh. This Niqodiymon got a Ruach HaKodesh. Without a doubt. She got a Ruach HaKodesh. Some things that she shared me them, she had a Ruach HaKodesh. And there was a couple things I shared with her. Right? It lets me know that, these are the things that's going to separate you from the rest of the world. And these are the things that are going to keep you, right? The atonement, right? Knowing that you have been washed, that you have his atoning blood, and that you have his Ruach HaKodesh. A word from a prophet. You got to understand. The only people that are going to make it are those who receive a word, and those who live in that word, who come under that atonement. Right? Let's look up something here. Something that I want to look at. Right. We've talked about the elements of the atonement yesterday. Right? We talked about the water. We talked about the blood. And we talked briefly about the Ruach HaKodesh. Right? Right. And we know from looking at Ephesians, excuse me, that the process of becoming is set forth, right? Or the way that we got there should represent or reflect what's in Ephesians 1 and 13. Right. We know that Yahusha said that you must be born again, or you must be born from above. Right. Which suggests that in order to be born again or to be born from above, it requires Yahuwah's Ruach. Yahusha was born from above. But see, we don't have to enter into the womb a second time. Because if we wash born of the water, right, and we receive the atoning blood of Yahusha HaMashiach, right, which cleanses us from sin and filth, uncleanness, right, then Yahuwah can take up a residence. He can occupy our temple, right, and bring life to our mortal bodies again. But the life that we receive is the Alua kind of life, the El kind of life, the life that comes as a result of an experience of his Ruach HaKodesh on the inside of us, because we have in Emunah believed the Besor, the word of salvation. We believed and received that this Lamb of Yahuwah that was slain from the foundations of the earth, this Lamb of Yahuwah that is taking away the sins of the world, this Lamb of Yahuwah's blood satisfies our sin issue. And because it does, we can now experience a rebirth. Right? Right. We can complete the process of atonement, being filled with the Ruach HaKodesh. Right. You said you got to be born of water and Ruach HaKodesh. Right. You got to wash. You have to do that. You have to receive the Ruach HaKodesh. You have to ask for that. Right. The blood atonement, I'm gonna provide. Right. I'm gonna provide the blood atonement. That's what I'm gonna do. Right. I'm going to do that. And so, with this, right, we understand, right, in agreement with what is spoken in Ephesians, right, the first chapter, 13 verse, down to, I think it was like 17 or 18. The Ruach HaKodesh becomes fundamentally necessary for us to be elevated to the El kind of life, right? Let's look at Ephesians real quick. Where is it at? Ephesians 1:13. We're going to read it. In whom ye also trusted after that you heard the word of truth. You heard the word, you trusted. You have Emunah, right? You have to have Emunah. You have to have Emunah in everything. In Yahusha's witness. Everything requires Emunah. You have to just believe it. It has nothing to do with what you could see. It has nothing to do with what you can rationally figure out. It has nothing to do with critical thinking. Even though critical thinking doesn't necessarily factor out. It's not necessarily critical thinking. It's emunah. It's because what Yahuwah said, whether I can figure out how that has happened or not. That's why being born again, or being born from above, right, requires emunah, because, you know, there's just no physical way you can make those things align. You can't make being born again align. Yahusha says a man is born of the flesh is flesh, but that's born of the spirit is spirit. So how do we get that? Well, you have to be born from above, and this is the process. You got to believe that in emunah. You got to trust. Right? He says, and whom else do you trust? After that, you did what? You heard the Torah. You heard the word made flesh. In the beginning was the word, and the word was with Yah, and the word was Yah. Same was in the beginning with Yah. All things were made by him, without anything made that was made. And him was life, and that life was the light of man. In that 14th verse, he says, and oh, make sure, let me get to it, because I don't want in that 14th verse, he says, and the word became flesh, and it dwelt among us. And we beheld his glory, the word, the Torah, the word that was in the beginning, the word that was in Yahuwah's bosom. The word was made flesh, the Torah. The word is in the Shamayim, Yahusha, and the Ruach HaKodesh testified to Yahusha. Yahusha was the word. He was the word made flesh, right? You had to believe what Yahusha said. You had to trust what Yahusha said. You had to trust it and believe it. He says the word of truth, because Yahusha is only going to tell the truth, right? It is the good news of Yeshua. This is a good news of this is about Yeshua. And Yeshua is good news, right? Salvation. It's what our forefathers looked to. Salvation. And salvation was salvation from our enemies. But salvation was the restoration of the kingdom, right? And the restoration of the kingdom has always been what Yahuwah's plan was. Because the kingdom was shut down because of sin, right? And its total restoration wasn't going to occur until after Yahusha. Right? Now, what Yahuwah did was he gave us Dawid, and he gave us Shlomo, he gave us Shaul, he gave us the kings after that, right? But listen, that was just kind of a test run so we understand what it could possibly look like. When it was under Shlomo and all of our enemies was at peace with us, right? And we was eating good, and we was enjoying good, and we was serving you, and we were keeping his law, statutes, and commandments, and all of a sudden Shlomo started marrying all these other women, foreign women. He broke Yahuwah's Torah, right? Ruach left him. He up there in Ecclesiastics. Vanity is vanity. They have to preach all is vanity. You ain't got Yahuwah's Ruach talking like that. Ecclesiasticus. Yeah, that shows you what Shlomo was before. Ecclesiasticus gives you the picture of what Shlomo was when he had received the wisdom of Yahuwah's Ruach and how it demonstrated itself. We got an idea of what a kingdom looked like, how successful it could be, right? But what happens when adultery slips in, perversion slips in, right? It didn't come in overnight. It worked its way in gradually. You know, it was a subtle seduction. It was a subtle seducing. Yahusha brought the Basora of truth. Right? He brought the Basora of truth. He says he brought the Yeshua, the restoration of the kingdom. Yahusha's resurrection was the beginning of the end. Yahusha established his kingdom again, his presence again. See, I'm looking forward to the manifestation of the Ruach of Yahuwah on grand scale. On a grand scale. Where you see signs and wonders following us. On a grand scale. Not that stuff that you've seen in Christianity. That's all fabrication. That's a farce. That's not even true. They can't be healing nobody because they don't have the Ruach HaKodesh of Yahuwah. And they worship on a Sunday. Proverbial day of the sun. They worship Yahuwah. Oh no, they worship God. They serve the Lord. Right? And they worship Jesus. And you know what's crazy to me is how come you don't get the revelation of what his name is. And realize that that's his name. Why you gonna continue to use a name that you know is not his? Right? And then when you check the etymology of that name and you break that name down and you see what that name means, then you gotta understand something's gotta happen to you on the inside to say to you, man, why would your son be named this? But see, but you won't keep anything from a black man. You put it in a book. Yeah. Yeah, you can put it in the Bible because they don't read that either. They go to church every Sunday and don't read the Bible. They go to church every Sunday and don't read the Bible. Yeah. They go every Sunday, don't read the Bible. But the Christians are now waiting for the rapture of the church so that they can escape the tribulation. Listen. You believe because, you know, your emunah has to demonstrate itself in your belief in what he says. Right? He says, right? He says, you were sealed. The process. You're born of the water and the Ruach HaKodesh. You believe in the atoning blood. You believe in the process. You believe that Yahuwah said, I'm going to sprinkle you with clean water. And you're going to be clean from all your filthiness. And from all your idols. And I'm going to give you a new heart. And I'm going to put in you a new spirit. And I'm going to place the old heart of stone with a new heart of flesh. And I am going to put my Ruach HaKodesh in you. Right? You're going to put his Ruach HaKodesh in you. So you can keep his law, statutes, and commandments. Because without the Ruach HaKodesh, you ain't going to keep his law, statutes, and commandments. And listen. Even with the Ruach HaKodesh, you're going to fight sometimes. You go war in your members. You ain't going to give in, but you're going to war. You're going to go to battle. You're going to fight. But it's a good fight. He says here, you receive the Ruach HaKodesh of promise. Now the Ruach HaKodesh is that which causes you to be his. The blood was necessary to cleanse you, to bring you to a place where you could be his. Because the blood made provisions for the sin. The washing made provisions for you to clean your nasty body and to represent passing from death to life. Let's see that Ruach HaKodesh. Right, that makes you his. See, the Ruach HaKodesh gives you power to be sons of Yahuwah. He says here, listen. Which is the earnest of your inheritance, right? This is yours. Right? Now, he's talking to the church at Ephesus. Right? So he's talking to Gentiles. But see, we understand this. We should understand this already because it's Hebraic. It's Hebraic. Which is the earnest of our inheritance. Right? The Ruach HaKodesh. It's the earnest of our inheritance. Until the redemption. Until he gathers us. Right? Until he gathers us. His purchased possession. He purchased us with the blood of Yahusha Mashiach. We're his. Right? That's why, the thing we were talking, I was talking to Cody today, or actually we was having a conversation, and I was saying to her, I said, listen, you know what? It's the blood atonement, right? And it's the water, but it's the Ruach HaKodesh that makes you his. Right? He says it here. He says, the redemption of the purchased possession unto the praise of his glory. You are the redeemed, right? You have been purchased, right? Yahusha has been the price. Yahusha as the kinsman redeemer was the price that was paid for your redemption. Yahusha's blood provided what was necessary for a blood atonement to eliminate sin consciousness from you. Because of the atoning blood of Yahusha Mashiach, I can look at you now. I can say, yes, you swept clean, you straight. I'm going to put my Ruach HaKodesh in you. You're going to be my possession. See, that's what caused us to be his people. Under his covenant, his atonement, right? Because he didn't give us his Ruach HaKodesh like that. He didn't send his Ruach HaKodesh in the earth at the time of Amein. I mean, he made his Ruach available to people that he felt that needed it in order to lead the nation. But listen, everybody wouldn't walk around with you as Ruach HaKodesh. Everybody had to have that atonement every day. You had to have that high priest offering up atonement for on behalf of him and his people. He got to wash and do ceremonial washing every day. He had to present before Yahuwah every day. That he had to offer a sacrifice. Every time he had to shed innocent blood. Excuse me. Every time he had to shed innocent blood to cover your sins. Or actually cover your forefathers' sins. See, Yahusha Mashiach has completely washed them clean. You just have to receive the witness. You just have to trust, right? Then you have to believe. Then you're sealed. Then you become his purchased possession, right? He says, and wherefore also, after I heard of your faith in Yahuwah and the love for the saints. See, and because of this, you can really move forward in Emunah. And you can have love for the saints. Right? You can have love for the saints. You can't love nobody without the Ruach HaKodesh. You can't love the way Yahuwah wants you to love. You gotta have the Ruach HaKodesh. He said that the allure of our Adonai Yahusha, the Father of glory, may give unto you the Ruach HaKodesh of wisdom and revelation and the knowledge of him. Right? See, because the Ruach HaKodesh is the Ruach of wisdom and understanding, the Ruach of counsel and of might, the Ruach of knowledge and the fear of Yahuwah. The Ruach HaKodesh is the Ruach of Yahuwah. Right? That's what it is. Right? Now, you need to pray that Yahuwah will reveal to you his wisdom, his revelation, in the knowledge of him. See, I have this. I have this because I have it in my belly. See, I believe that. I believed that I received the Ruach. He said, from my belly shall flow rivers of living waters. Of this he spake of the Ruach HaKodesh, from my inners. Ruach HaKodesh. You can't be his without having him on the inside of you. Right? He says this, listen. The eyes of your understanding being enlightened, that ye may know what is the hope. You see, and you know what? See, I know what you has called me to do. It's not hard for me to do what he's called me to do. It's not hard for me to cry loud and spare not. It's not hard for me to lift up my voice like a trumpet. It's not hard for me to lay hands on the sick. It's not hard for me to cast out devils. It's not hard for me to shake off serpents or take up deadly things. It's not hard for me because I trust in you who is Ruach HaKodesh. I trust in the Ruach HaKodesh that he's given me. Listen, I ain't going to do anything. I wasn't going to do anything until Yahuwah told me. See, you can't testify or be a witness of Yahuwah without his Ruach HaKodesh. You can't. You know, you're going to believe everything you see. Without his Ruach HaKodesh, you're going to believe everything you hear, and you're going to think it's Yahuwah. You're going to think, oh man, Yahuwah's doing this. Look what Yahuwah's doing. Oh, look what Yahuwah's doing. And you ain't got his Ruach HaKodesh. Because Ruach HaKodesh, the spirit of wisdom, revelation, knowledge, will reveal to you like, oh man, what? If you awakened, then why are you saying what you're saying? If you trusted in Yahusha Mashiach, why you ain't saying what he say? You know, because you got a bunch of brews, right, that march around the Barcade Center in support of Kyrie Irving. Why? Now, did they do that in Scripture? And you got these people because they don't have the Ruach HaKodesh. They like, oh man, that's such a great thing. Oh man, that's good for Kyrie. Oh yeah, that's a great thing. What they doing is they moving forward to persecution, right? Because you got to be able to discern who's pulling the strings, who's really pulling the strings. Who's really causing these things to be moved into the motion that they're in? Who's really behind them? Right? These brothers was Masons. How you Freemason? Right? And you leading Hebrews. No. You made a covenant with them. You don't get no media coverage. Why? Right? But what you get is an interview with Kyrie Irving afterwards. And they're asking him now about this group of men, this group of people, over 100, he said over 1,000, they're probably well over. Anyway, the the guy that was asking the questions of Kyrie, what's your relationship to the Hebrew Israelites, that are out, that have been known to say anti-Semitic things, what's your relationship with them? What do you have to say about that? These devils know what they're doing. They know what they're doing. I really wish that. No, I'm sorry. I take that back, Yahuwah. Because I don't believe in wishes. I pray that your people would just really understand the necessity of the Ruach HaKodesh. I pray, Yahuwah, I pray that your people would understand the necessity of the Ruach HaKodesh, that they would receive this power. Listen. He says here, he says, the eyes of your understanding being enlightened, that you may know what is the hope of your calling. That comes through the Ruach HaKodesh. Enlightenment comes through the Ruach HaKodesh. Understanding what Yahuwah has called you as a nation to be comes in the Ruach HaKodesh. Right? And what is the riches, the glory of the inheritances in the saints? Understanding what the value of this Ruach HaKodesh brings to you. Right? It's Yahuwah on the inside of you. It gives you an inheritance amongst the Kodashim that have already gone before you. Greatness is of his Ruach HaKodesh, that's to us who believe. Yahuwah, I believe that you have given me your Ruach HaKodesh. I believe from my belly flows rivers of living water. I believe there are exceeding power that's in me. There's dunamos, there is exousia, there's dynamic, dynamite power. Yahuwah, I believe in the name of Yahusha Mashiach, power to heal the sick, power to raise the dead, power to cast out devils, power to speak with new tongues, power to take up deadly things and not have them harm me. Power. See, this power is exceedingly great, right? Can't minimize this. This is what establishes you as this kingdom. That's why you can't, it's not enough to just go down in the water. It's not enough to receive the atonement, the blood, right? You have to have his Ruach HaKodesh. Yahusha said, you must be born again of the water and of the Ruach HaKodesh. You can't get just the water and the blood. You got to have the Ruach HaKodesh. You must have it. It ain't an option. It's what makes you his. Right? Right? The inheritance until the redemption of his purchased possession. You purchased. You're his possession. He has put his Ruach HaKodesh in you. He has sealed you with his Ruach HaKodesh. What is the exceeding greatness of his power to usward who believe? To us who believe in his power. Greatness. Greatness. These signs shall follow them that believe. Greatness. See, in this witness, there's no bending of the knee. In this witness, there's no yielding to Hasatan. None of that. None of that. He says here, according to the working of his mighty power. It's the same power which he wrought in a Mashiach. It's the same power that raised Yahusha from the dead. It's exceeding great power that's in you. It raised Yahusha from the dead. But you gotta believe it. You gotta believe this. Man of Yah, woman of Yah, you gotta believe this. You gotta have emunah on this. You gotta be confident of this. You gotta be settled with this. You got to be settled in the fact that you must ask Yahuwah for his Ruach HaKodesh, because that is what he's going to use to purchase you. I mean, that's what he's going to use to identify you as his possession. Now your servant sealed. See, the seal of Yahuwah, Yahuwah's Ruach HaKodesh in you, will preserve you when all hell is breaking off around you. The Ruach in you will keep you when demons and devils are ripping people apart around you, and he can't touch you. Listen, the Ruach HaKodesh in you will keep you from bullets. Yeah. The Ruach HaKodesh in you will cause you to pass through crowds, and people see you one minute and they don't see you the next, because all of a sudden you're gone. This is the Ruach. This is the Yahuwah I serve. This is the Ruach HaKodesh he's called me to preach. This is the witness he's told me to tell you, you better have it. Excuse me, you better have this. You better have this witness. You better be sealed. He says, it's the same power that you wrought when he raised him, Hamashiach, from the dead. And did what? Set him at his own right hand in the heavenly. So Yahusha's established in the heavenlies. Now you on the arrest, but you have exceeding power. You have the Ruach of wisdom and revelation. You have an understanding of how to move. If you have this Ruach HaKodesh, if you ain't got this Ruach HaKodesh, you don't know what you're going to do. You gonna bow the knee and you gonna read a script. You gonna say exactly what they tell you to do. Because you know what, you ain't got the Ruach HaKodesh, but you the people though. You the people though, but you ain't got the Ruach HaKodesh. You gonna say whatever the script say. You gonna say exactly what the script say. He said, Yahusha Mashiach his own right hand in the heavenly places, far above principalities and powers and mights and dominions. Yahuwah has established Yahusha above everything. Right? Dominions and every name that is named, not only in this world, but that which is to come. Right? And I put all things under his feet and gave him to be the head over all things to the assembly. Yahusha, Mashiach. Right? Right? Which is his body, the fullness, which is his body, the fullness of him that filleth all in all. Right? We keep note chapter 2. Right? And he says, and you have he quickened. Now you ain't just awake. You ain't just running around here knowing you're the people. See, because you have been born again of the water and the Ruach HaKodesh, you have received the atonement, right? Yahuwah, you have asked Yahuwah, and he has given you his Ruach HaKodesh, right? You are now his, right? You are different from what you was. Because see, you had to be changed. You had to be atoned for. Your sins had to be cleansed. You had to be forgiven. You had to be washed. Nah, you the people. That's why it's Gentiles that have been washed, that have been baptized, that have received the atoning blood of Yahusha Mashiach, and has received because they asked for the gift of the Ruach HaKodesh. They under this atonement. He gathering them too, because they gonna escape the wrath to come. Because this ain't about bloodline. It's about a blood covenant. Japhetic blood that's under the covenant and the atonement of Yahusha Mashiach. It's a wild olive branch. It's grafted in. They're not the branch, the olive branch, right? The wild, they grafted in. You know, again, I heard somebody say that, Judah was grafted. Judah is grafted in. Judah ain't never been grafted in. The only people that are grafted in is the Gentiles. Right? Paul's letter was to the Gentiles. He spoke to the Gentiles in reference to being grafted in. Not... See, I'm telling you, you better listen to the rule. You better make sure you have Ruach HaKodesh before you start saying stuff. Right? You better understand what the Ruach HaKodesh is saying. Because you just can't say stuff. Right? Right. But you're still in. Right? Right? Judah will never be a wild olive branch. Judah would no longer be a wild olive branch as Yahusha was a wild olive branch. Yahusha was from the lineage of Yehuda. Dawid and his descendants come from Yehuda. Yehuda's descendants are the kingly tribes. Listen, you better understand this, man. It's okay to be a wild olive branch grafted in. The idea is that you're under an atonement. And see, for our people, you need to understand that even for them, it's all right for them to be in because they're under atonement. They become sons and daughters because they have been quickened. They have been made alive. They were dead in their sins, right? Where in times past, ye walked according to the course of this world, according to the prince of the power of the air, Hasatan, the Ruach that now worketh in the children of disobedience. Everybody that is not under Torah and is not under atonement and has not received the Ruach HaKodesh is a child of disobedience. Everybody. Because all have sinned under disobedience. But see, but here's the kicker. You have to understand that the atonement changes that. Right? Even the atonement under Adam, the atonement under Abraham, Yitzhak, and Jacob And Moshe, that atonement was given in order to cover sin. Right? They were still going. But they had that atonement. But see, Yahusha Mashiach. Ooh, hallelujah. See, that eliminated sin consciousness. That's what you clean. That did it. That was rebirth. Yeah, that was a physical reboot. He said, among whom also you had your way of life in times past, in the lust of our flesh, fulfilling the desires of the flesh and of the mind, and were by nature children of wrath. We lived this. We lived this. You know. Now in the witness of Yahushua Mashiach, we battle things in our minds, right? But we don't yield to those things, right? Those things don't dictate to us. You know, before Hasatan will say something to you, Hasatan would say, go steal that. Put that in your pocket. You know, you child disobedience. You took the opportunity to make it happen. Right? Right? But then the Mashiach now, you know, Hasatan still say stupid stuff like that to you. He said, man, they ain't gonna miss that, man. Go ahead and grab that. What? You devil, what do you think I'm... No, get out of here, Satan. Right? But the thought still comes. Right? Because listen, at the end of the day, your mind has to be renewed. Your mind it remembers stuff. It remembers. That's why your mind has to be renewed by the word of Yahuwah. You have to transform the way you think. Children of disobedience, they ain't that way no more. Because Yahuwah's done a new thing, and he's put his Ruach in us. He's given us a new heart. Right? Right? He has completed the atonement process by giving us his Ruach HaKodesh. Because, you know, now we can keep his judgments and his statutes. Now we can keep his commandments. Now we have the power to do it. He says, listen, right? Among whom also we had our conversations in time past in the lust of our flesh, fulfilling the desires of the flesh and of the mind, and were by nature the children of wrath, even as others. But Elul, who is rich in mercy, for his great love wherein he has loved us, right? Even when we were dead in sin, has made us alive, quickened us by his Ruach HaKodesh, because it's that power that gives us life. The blood cleanses. The power gives us the life of Yahuwah. The power gives us the life of Yahuwah. The power is that glory that in the midst of a dark world, we radiate as lights. So when the angels move and it sees darkness, it identifies us as light, and judgment doesn't come to us. Got this treasure in earthen vessels, that the excellency of the glory may be of you. He says, listen, beloved, right? Alua, who has loved us and rich man of great love for us when we were dead in our sins, giving us life together with Hamashiach. Just like he raised Yahusha from the dead, he raised us up from the dead and put in us his Ruach HaKodesh by that same power, that exceeding great power, that seal, that Ruach HaKodesh, right? And having raised us up together, made us sit together in heavenly places in the Shamayim, right? We have a place in the Shamayim, right? Because that's where elves are. That's where elves are. Right? See, we haven't made it to that place yet. But we are recognized in that place. Because in the Shamayim, Yahuwah identifies his Ruach in us. Right? And though we're not there, we're still there in him. He says that in the ages to come, he may shew his exceeding riches of his grace. and his kindness through Yahusha Mashiach. He's going to gather us. He's going to redeem us. He's going to restore us back to our land. He's going to restore everything that the cankerworm and the palmer worm have eaten. We're going to come out with wealth and riches. Right? Right? And you know what? You know, it ain't about I'm coming out with a Gucci watch. I'm coming out with a Gucci watch. You know, Yahuwah gives you a Gucci watch, but you know, what's wealth and riches to us who have exceedingly great power, who has been changed? In the Mashiach. For by grace are you saved through emunah, and it's not of yourselves, right? It is a gift of Elohiym. Yahuwah gave us the gift of life, giving us his Ruach HaKodesh. Right? Right? That we can be sons and daughters. Right? He says, listen, he's talking to the Gentiles now, right? He says, not of works lest any man should boast, for we are his creatures. We are his workmanship, created in a Mashiach unto good works, before ordained that we should be walking. So Yahuwah has before ordained that this is how we were to walk, right? Remember that being in times past Gentiles in the flesh, called uncircumcised, that which is circumcised, made with man's hand, that at that time ye were without a Mashiach. Right? You were aliens. You didn't have no right to the commonwealth of Yasharal. This is Yasharal's commonwealth. This Yeshua, Yahusha's coming was for his people. Right? It was their commonwealth. Right? He says, and strangers from the covenant of promise. You were strangers for the covenant of promise. Right? Right? Having no hope without Elohiym in the work, because you ain't had no hope. Because you weren't keeping Torah. You didn't have a covenant. You didn't have a Torah. You didn't have an atonement. You didn't have a way to wash. You didn't have none of that. Right? Right? Your ancestors were idol worshipers. Your ancestors were blood drinkers. Your ancestors shed innocent blood. Your ancestors. Your ancestors shed innocent blood on this continent. They shed Hebrew blood. Right? On this continent. Your ancestors shed innocent blood. He's going to visit the iniquities on the fathers until the sons to the third and fourth generation of them that hated him. They hated Yahuwah. Right? But you know what? Yahuwah, right? You were aliens from the commonwealth, strangers from the covenant of promise, having no hope and without Elohiym in the world. Right? But see what Yahusha Mashiach did. Right? Right? But now Yahusha Mashiach, ye who were sometimes were far off, have been brought nigh by the blood of Yahusha Mashiach. Yahusha's atonement made it possible for you to receive this witness. Yahusha's atonement. Yahusha's blood atonement made it possible for you to enter in. Right? And for he is our peace who have made us both one. He is our peace, Yasharal, but he's made you and us one. He's broken down the middle wall of partition. He broke that thing that was separating us right? Because you were idol worshippers. We weren't supposed to have anything to do with you. But because you've come under the blood of Hamashiach, you've come under his atonement. You have a circumcised heart. You may not have the circumcision of the flesh, but you got a circumcised heart. Right? That's why Shaul said we don't need to circumcise him. Right? You got a circumcised heart. Because the covenant is made available to you through Yahusha Mashiach's blood. Right? That's why you're sons and daughters, just like we're sons and daughters. Right? He says here, for he is our peace who has made us both one and broken down the middle wall of partition, having abolished in his flesh, in his flesh that which separated us. The law, the law of commandments and ordinances, to make in himself twain one new, so making peace. Because there was laws and ordinances that kept the strangers at bay. But now, Yahuwah's dealt with that through Yahusha Mashiach. Man of Yah, woman of Yah, we're going to stop there. Again, it's the Ruach HaKodesh. The Ruach HaKodesh is key in this witness. You must receive this Ruach HaKodesh of Yahuwah. Because that's what makes you his. That's what causes you to be his. The blood of Yahusha Mashiach made it possible for you to be atoned, but also made possible for you to experience this covenant. Yahuwah, in the name of Yahusha Mashiach, I give you praise for your word. I pray that your word will go forth unto those that you have chosen by hearing, and that by hearing they would receive emunah in what this preacher has given to them, right, as a word of truth, that they may learn thereby and grow and be established in your truth. Yahuwah, I love you and I love your word. And I pray that you would continue to allow your Ruach HaKodesh to have free course in my life, that you would have it take the reins of my lips and the reins of my tongue and reign all the time. Yahuwah, in the name of Yahusha Mashiach, I pray, let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight. Yahuwah, my strength and my redeemer. Hallelujah. Man of Yah, woman of Yah, called to greatness, woman of Yahuwah, beautifully and wonderfully made today as you has favored you. Listen, the water, the blood, and the Ruach HaKodesh. You must be born again of the water and the Ruach HaKodesh, right? In order to see the kingdom of heaven, in order to enter into the kingdom, right? Because this is about being a people that are under atonement. That I say, shalom, shalom, and shalom, and be blessed.
Torah Garden, speaking the absolute truth. Torah Nation.